sort of break in chain of command, or some portions of the units here have been pinned down, meaning that they can't necessarily do their job very well. But the more important thing, meaning, is that they can't actually assault during this particular turn, and what is presumably the next few turns till command is reestablished. So we will have to continue the offensive in this particular hex using only this particular unit. So we'll commence that assault again. Didn't do that many losses, only because we weren't able to overwhelm the enemy. But you know what? We win some and we lose some. Likewise, inside this hex, we will get the escape battalions here to do their thing. There are rifle battalions here to apparently not do their thing, because that would be over the stacking limitations. And we'll just get the escape battalions to do their thing, and it did quite a bit of damage. And we'll get the rest of our troops to move forward here, and that will be effectively the end of this turn. The game does have a few stacking limitations, which is effectively how many men you can... Just think of it as how many men you can effectively squeeze into a 1 kilometer area. It'd be quite insane to put more bodies than, say, 150, or rather 1,500 men in a 1 kilometer area, where else, when artillery comes down, all of them are just going to be flying all over the place, right? So that's kind of what happened there, and why we weren't able to assault with all of our men. And in those situations, you might want to just conduct 2 assaults rather than 1. So anyhow, moving from here, new turn. Let's see what we can do. If we go to the view dialog here, let me find that little command report. So this is the command report that you get per every turn, and typically you'll be reading through these pretty fast. So what this tells us is that one of our HQs is out of command, meaning that whatever units that it has under it will have a lesser chance of being able to recover from disruption or stuff and such like that, seeing as how its HQ isn't even able to recover. We have 1 artillery unit being unavailable, so that's just to represent how our artillery units might not have ammunition at this particular time, and we have 1 unit low on ammo. Likewise, there was a little problem in the chain of supply, so our units may not be at full combat efficiency, but it looks like 2 units of ours have recovered from disruption, meaning that the command was recovered, meaning that was quite a good thing. 1 of our units recovered fatigue, and 3 of our units recovered losses, meaning that some of the casualties it has suffered in the past have now come back and are now functioning as soldiers once again. So, starting off the top, you always want to get the artillery out of the way, so we will bombard the enemy to soften up for our assaults, and we will pummel these 2 hexes with some more guns. There we go. And that will cause quite a few losses, and that'll soften up our assaults. One thing that some of my subscribers may have noticed is inside this game, you're managing fairly large groups of men. Often it's like this, where you have like more than 400 of them. In Sicily 43, typically you're going to be dealing with much smaller groups of men, and typically they're only going to be at 300 men mark at the very most. So there's quite a large difference in the amount of people that you're throwing around inside this game. But you know what? That was a truth of life on the Russian front, right? The Russians spent quite a lot of their manpower fighting off the Germans, and in Sicily the losses weren't necessarily that high. So, we're going to make another assault on this particular town again. And again, we were over the stacking limitations to effectively use that 1 particular unit. But you'll see here that we managed to nibble down this particular unit down by 118 men, while only losing 5 in the process. So that was pretty good. That was a pretty good assault. So, there you may have noticed that we can see some information about the enemy's units on the side panels here. Notably, if we compare this unit and this unit, you'll see here that this particular formation located inside the town, it only has X amount of men left inside it, meaning that currently there's less than 100 fighting soldiers available inside this formation, whereas there can be up to and from 100 to 999 inside this unit here. So with that said, inside this 25 unit victory point hex, we probably know that there's not very many defenders left, and I'm willing to bet that with another assault coming from this unit, we might be able to overwhelm it and take the hex over. So we'll start another assault, and it looks like we were able to overwhelm that particular group of soldiers, and we were able to take the hex. So that is very, very good. So over here, both of our units are disrupted, meaning that they can't fight any further, which is rather unfortunate. And seeing as how the Germans here have a much better position, as well as a much better chance at hitting us, we will just not move these two units present here. One thing that we should note about here is the morale and the fatigue of our units. Units build up fatigue as they take losses, not by moving or doing any of that stuff, unless you enable the optional rule. Fatigue is effectively an indicator of how tired your troops are from combat, and what fatigue effectively influences is the morale of your units. Morale inside the Panzer campaign's series of games are effectively what troop quality condition your troops are currently in. So what you see here is that because our troops are disrupted, I believe they automatically lose one letter grade off of their morale value, meaning that these guys are slightly less efficient simply because their command has been disrupted. So that's why this unit has morale value of D and this one has morale value of C. They should be in theory the same, although it does differ a little bit by whatever units that you have inside your division here. Now over here you'll see that this unit, the unit that you may have recalled that we used to assault the German position by themselves, they have max fatigue, meaning that they've taken so many losses that their troops are just absolutely tired of combat. And what this does is that it actually drops the morale further to a level in which it surpasses F morale, I believe, causing them to have absolutely no morale, meaning that they are extremely vulnerable to enemy assaults, and they're extremely vulnerable to enemy fire, causing the disrupted tag. In general, units that have a morale will barely ever rout or be barely ever disrupted by fire, whereas troops with no morale are extremely vulnerable to fire, which leads to disruption. So as you can see here, most of our units have decent morale or decent fatigue levels, which is in the green, which is typically less than 100, meaning that they function, they are currently at their, what I would consider their best functioning state. If fatigue goes over 100, then you're getting into a level in which you do take a morale hit, meaning that if fatigue goes over 100, your troops will lose one letter grade off of their morale, which does make quite a big difference during their assaults. Likewise, some of these conditions, such as low ammunition, also do matter. Our rifle brigade over here looks like dropped from D to F. D to E due to the fact that they are low on ammunition. So with that kind of said, let's begin by trying to take the second text. So we'll get our ski battalions to move forward here. They'll assault, and it looks like they've actually managed to disrupt the enemy formation during their assault. This is likely due to the fact that we had 3 of them with a ton of men compared to the Germans, and we with an assault value of 20, we were able to do quite a lot of losses, meaning that the enemy unit here has been disrupted and has been kicked out of the hex. So with that said, all of these units, all of the units from this particular green division is now no longer needed here, so I'll also shift them over here to fight the Germans occupying this particular hex. And we'll do a few more general movements up along the front, and we will really go from here. And I'm going to put my engineers in travel mode so that they can move one more hex, and that will be the end of this turn. So the turn resolution will come in here, and things should be solved for us in just a little bit. Yep, there we go. It looks like one of our units had actually broken. So these guys at max fatigue, they were unable to resist fire anymore. So they actually broke, and now they are in a rout. If a unit disrupts once, it's counted as disruption, but if it breaks again, it will be routed or broken. So this is kind of what happens. This is a very good reason for keeping your fatigue low, being that fatigue is fairly important in keeping your units high in morale, and if your units are high in morale, they don't break as often. Now, playing with Soviet troops typically have a fairly low morale indicator to begin with, being that the Soviet troops weren't necessarily some of the best troops present along the front here. The German troops, I believe, are all they're all fairly high up. They might all be A quality troops, meaning that they may be considered elite troops by all standards, relative to the troops that we have here, of course. So we have our troops moved forward here, and we have a whole stack of Russian troops in this particular hex that are owned by the Green Division here. One of the things that the game does is that it, you may have noticed this, but inside the bottom panel here, it'll tell us a few stats about what exactly is happening in these particular hexes. So what these hexes do is that they give us some information, such as the village tag over here, the elevation, the visibility, the supply, and they also have a few bonus ones like this one, which is the objective tag. What these mean is that they provide information on the particular hex, which then affect the units present within this hex, as well as the amount of damage and the amount of line of sight and the amount of supply that they have. So what this means is that if we go into the map, zoomed in feature or function right here, you'll see that our troops which have been attacking this particular town over here, they have been actually assaulting a fairly high up position from a fairly low one. So the elevation difference is about 100 meters, meaning that they've pressed themselves up and then they've taken the village on the hill, and that's quite an impressive task. And over here in the southern area of operations, we are in a clear hex that is at the 200-meter elevation mark, while the enemies are inside a village hex at the 150-meter mark. What this means is that the enemy has a lot of protection from our fire due to the fact that they are inside a village, which takes off roughly around 20% of whatever damage that we dish out. Although on the other hand, because we are higher up than the enemy, our troops have a inherent cover bonus for the sake of being at a higher ground level than them. So that is quite nice to know, meaning that our troops can soak up a little more damage, and when we combine that benefit with some of the other stuff, such as a forest hex or something similar, it'll make it so that it is even more difficult to actually get to our troops. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to get our artillery, which we should have used at the beginning of the turn, forgot about that, and we're going to lay off a barrage onto whatever troops that we can see. I'm also going to be moving this stack of troops, not that stack of troops. Well, yeah, we're going to be moving these troops, and we're going to be launching an assault on the enemy position. And we want to press forward here, and we want to see how many losses that we can sort of deal. And it looks like that was all that we could do. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to move a few troops further, and from here that is all that we can do. So we will end the turn, and we will continue next time. Alright, Russian turn again. One of our HQs are out of command. 4 of our units are low on ammo. 0 out of 6 units have been fixed in terms of command, and it looks like some other stuff has happened, but none of it is particularly important to us. And it is time to continue, so let us do that. Let's get our troops moving, and let's get them to move upon the enemy strongholds. What I'll do here is that I'll take these two units, so the 44th SMG company and the rifle brigade over here, and I will actually assault the enemy's gun battery present inside this particular town. So we'll try to overrun that, and it looks like we have killed off that particular gun battery, and we've taken that location. One thing that I should note is that these artillery assets and some of these AT guns, you actually can't move these units unless they are in movement mode, which makes sense, right? Artillery guns, you either need to set them up for them to fire, and likewise, our AT guns, you either need to set them up or keep them on the ground to fire, and you can't really have both at the same time. So what we've just done is that we've taken the blue AT battalion and we've put it in transit mode so it can move, and we're going to move it on this road here so that it can move in the general direction of this village that we've just taken, and we want to obviously hold. So we've done that, and our ski battalions and our infantry have moved up to take the adjacent town. In the meantime, our tanks will cover the victory point that we've just gained, and our AT guns should be there in the meantime. But during the time that the AT gun battalion is in transit mode, it is fairly vulnerable to enemy fire. So do keep that in mind. It's these artillery units and stuff and such, actually all units in general, are fairly vulnerable when they are in this transit mode. Looks like we disrupted an enemy formations, that is good. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to drop some more mortars down onto the enemy hexes. We'll get some of these artillery assets to fire here as well. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to pack up the ski battalions and I'm going to move them back and into the fight for the village in a little bit. One thing that you should note is that you can't, each and every single formation, with the exception of a few things such as anti-tank guns, each and every single one of these rifle brigades and tanks and ski battalions and engineers and stuff and such like that, they possess a zone of control around them, meaning that every single hex adjacent to them are effectively controlled by them. So with that said, you can't move from one enemy zone of control into another zone of control, so you do have to so here I had to move our ski battalions back into our own zone of control before I move it back into the enemy's zone of control tile. One of the things that you can do is that if you surround an enemy group of troops, you effectively nibble off their supply and their communications to other units of their same faction, making it so that you isolate them, such as what we've done here. When units are isolated, what happens is that their morale will drop, and they are much more susceptible to taking take damage in terms of command and control. So they'll typically be more likely to get disrupted in that state. And another thing is that typically when they're isolated, they don't have a chain of supply, meaning that once they return fire, they will have the low ammunition little condition attached to them, meaning that they effectively get hit with a triple whammy to their morale, making them fairly susceptible to assaults. So what we're going to do here is that because we've isolated this troop, and because the chances are is that they're low on ammunition and also isolated and disrupted, we're going to assault them with one battalion. And as you can see here, now we're really doing damage. Before, we required like 3 ski battalions to do 130 losses, while it's only losing 5 people. Now a single battalion can do that, simply because this unit is probably disrupted, isolated, and low on ammo. Typically, you won't be able to see the low on ammo indicator unless you are the controller of that particular unit. And what we're going to try to do here is that I'm going to move our ski company or our SMG company forward by 1 hex, so he'll seal off that hex and that hex, which will seal off the 50 the objective hex over here with 50 points, meaning that this hex will be isolated in the next turn, making it so that it'll be much easier to take. And we'll drop off a few artillery shots like that, really to just do a little more damage. Over here on the southern effort, we will bombard the Hex even more, and we will press on the offensive like before. So drop some artillery shots, get all of our guys here, and we will launch an assault with whatever troops that we have that are not disrupted, and that'll cause some losses. We lost 9 men compared to their